These things are huge.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to the land of Chem. I am your host and the author. My name is Jeffrey Drum. Thank you all so much for joining me again. All right, everyone, welcome back. Now, today's episode is part one of an immense research series explaining the operation of a multifunctional agricultural and therapeutic machine, an ancient ion cyclotron and seed enhancer, a lightning-powered chemical reactor, and an electric current voltage transformer, the most important stone circle on the planet, and perhaps the most powerful ancient structure that was ever created, Avebury. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you all so much for the support. I think that's it for today's intro. So without further ado, let's get right to it. All right, everyone, buckle your seatbelts and get ready. This one is a wild ride. Here we go with tonight's episode. Now, to begin, in this video, I will be presenting some research and the theory of John Burke from his prolific book, Seed of Knowledge, Stone of Plenty, that was first brought to my attention by my good friend, Hugh Newman, after we met for this interview in November of 2024. This was more than a year after I released my hypothesis for the function of stone circles, obelisks, and Avebury in December of 2023. And as I began to discuss my work on stone circles during this conversation with Hugh, he mentioned that I had to check out the hypothesis of John Burke. And when I read this book during one of our recent trips to Japan, I was absolutely thrilled to find that he was studying and documenting all of the same mechanisms of operation, specifically charge development within the stone circles induced by telluric currents that I discovered regarding these ancient agricultural machines. However, with a completely different function, as revealed in his book, for the enhancement of seeds. And he specifically mentions lightning as a byproduct of this process, but not the intended application. Now, after considering this hypothesis for some time, I've come to the conclusion that our separate works are actually two sides of the same coin. With the Avebury Serpent Temple landscape complex being the most powerful ancient structure that has ever existed on this planet, as stated in the intro, a multifunctional agricultural machine, an electric and magnetic field therapeutic interface system, an ancient ion cyclotron and seed enhancer, a lightning-powered chemical reactor, electroculture activator, negative ion and ozone generator, and an electric current voltage transformer. And in this series, I will be breaking down each function step by step in conjunction with the research of John Burke, as our two theories work hand in hand, but as you will see at the end of this video, in opposite directions. So let's start with the basics. The functional ancient stone technology of the Wiltshire Avebury Serpent Temple complex and the surrounding structures is all constructed on chalk bedrock, the oldest of which is a site called Windmill Hill, and then the West Kennet Long Barrow. And my wife Alexa and I have visited all of these sites, and I've done numerous episodes discussing their function with exclusive footage first presented back in episode 103, Magnetic Anomalies, Dielectric Fields, and Windmill Hill. And in episode 119, the function of the West Kennet Long Barrow and ultrasound crystallization. More on both of these sites coming up in this series. And I've made a new playlist entitled The Function of Avebury for all of the relevant videos mentioned in today's episode, link in the video description below. Now here is an exceptional image showing the layout of just some of the functional features of the Serpent Temple complex, with Windmill Hill here, the primary circle of Avebury here, Silbury Hill here, the West Kennet long barrow here, and the head end of the serpent at the sanctuary over here. And I've done several videos as well as an on-site expedition to Silbury Hill. Check out episode 105, predecessor of the Great Pyramid, Silbury Hill, and Sunday Site Visit 36, featuring our on-site expedition to this absolutely bizarre monument. And if you're new to the channel and you haven't seen the full Sunday Site Visit series, you are missing out on some of the best ancient site exploration content on YouTube. Now up to 121 videos featuring ancient structures from around the world, with a link to that playlist in the video description below. Now, the stones of Avebury are sarsen stone, a type of high silica content sandstone that were specifically selected for their dielectric properties and the associated capacity for storing electric fields, with silicon dioxide being the most widely used dielectric material for electronic applications. And again, if you're new to the channel or if you aren't familiar with these terms, I highly recommend getting caught up specifically on episode 106, Lightning, the Power Source of the Egyptian Pyramids, Part 1, presenting the role of dielectrics in conjunction with telluric currents and lightning, which also reveals the function of the Wiltshire White Horse Hills, cumulonimbus thunderstorm generators that are directly related to the function of the Avebury Serpent Temple complex, as presented first in episode 137, and most recently in episode 178, showing the mathematical connection of all of these lightning storm generators to ancient structures around the world, including Avebury in England, Karnak and Luxor Temple in Egypt, Teotihuacan in Mexico, and Pyramid Coromanta in Japan, all of which have associated White Horse cumulonimbus thunderstorm generator hills. Now, in Members Only episode 6, several years ago, I explained my theory for the primary function of Avebury, for the accumulation of telluric currents and the concentration of that electric current coming in from the east and from the north. And I'll explain more about that in just a moment. All of this for the development of positive surface charge within the circle, with this positive charge functioning as a target for negatively charged cloud-to-ground lightning strikes on the obelisks at the center of the primary circle. And that process generates massive magnetic and dielectric field flux, with a portion of the electric current being sent through the step-down voltage transformer stone avenues leading into both the tail and head end of the Serpent Temple complex, with the primary application, one of many that will be discussed in this episode, of this system, as presented in episode 142, Lightning and Fertilizer, for the production of atmospheric nitrate fertilizers that brought rain and water-soluble nitrate fertilizers to the surrounding agricultural areas. A massive telluric current and lightning-powered agricultural machine. Now, why does Avebury have an opening on the east end and the north, as I just showed? All right, everyone, I hope you're enjoying the video, and please remember to subscribe to the Land of Chem here on YouTube if you're interested in the physics and chemistry technology of a lost civilization and the function of the Egyptian pyramids and other ancient structures from across the world. Thank you all so much for the support. Now, back to the video. All right, now, why does Avebury have an opening on the east and north side of the complex? Telluric currents are diurnal, meaning they flow east to west, following the sun during the day, and north to south toward the magnetic poles at night, a phenomenon that was corroborated by John Burke, as you will see in just a moment. So Avebury is precisely calibrated in its engineering with an opening on the east side and on the north side to receive the flow of telluric currents during the day from the east and at night from the north, with these openings being slightly and intentionally offset to reflect Earth's axial tilt, a tilt that varies from approximately 22 degrees to 24.5 degrees over a 40,000 year period, with this exact angle being found in the tilt of the Avebury telluric current flow openings, as you can see here, approximately 24.5 degrees. The same angle that is depicted in ancient Egyptian art with the raising of the Djed pillar, with approximately 22 and 25 degrees. Thus, Avebury was precisely aligned to receive this Earth geomagnetically induced electric current telluric energy flow through these two apertures for the accumulation of charges within the system to attract lightning during thunderstorms. Lightning storms that were generated by the Wiltshire White Horse cumulonimbus cloud generator systems. And this image of Avebury coming from an awesome movie called Children of the Stones. Highly recommend checking that out. It's available in full on YouTube, with the serpent being an esoteric symbol for this telluric current energy and lightning. The power sources of the ancient technology around the planet, encoded in the Pyramid of Chichen Itza and the descent of the lightning god Quetzalcoatl or Kukulkan, that descends upon the structure during the spring equinox, a god that is directly connected to the Mayan agricultural season, with lightning bringing both rain and atmospheric nitrate fertilizers, as stated here. For the Maya, the March equinox is an important marker of the transition times between the wet season and the dry season. The March equinox indicates a time to observe a new beginning in the agricultural cycle when the rains come. The March equinox celebration at the Temple of Kukulkan connects this astronomical knowledge and agricultural practices with mythology. Kukulkan is one of the Maya creator gods who is usually pictured as a snake and part bird. Folklore tells us that on the equinox, Kukulkan descends from the sky to the earth, bringing with him the energy of the sun and the gift of water for planting. It is as though the feathered snake is an umbilical cord that provides nourishment to the land. Its vibration energizes the earth, preparing it for new growth. Certainly sounds a lot like lightning, fertilization via atmospheric nitrate fertilizers, and electric current stimulated electroculture. And this lightning, serpent dragon god, is also connected to the planet Venus, the same tracking that is also encoded into the Avebury Serpent Temple complex. And more evidence of this lightning-powered agricultural system is built directly into the structure itself, regarding its tracking of the phases of the moon and the tides, both of which have a significant impact on the frequency of lightning strikes. As stated here, there is about 25% more lightning strikes at high lunar tide when compared to the number of lightning strikes at low lunar tide. As the moon goes around the earth, its gravity not only raises the ocean, it also raises the ground. This earth tide is much smaller than the ocean tides. However, it appears to have a significant impact on earth telluric currents. The sun causes about a third as much of an earth tide as the moon does. So earth tides need to be calculated using both the position of the moon and of the sun, a process that is built directly into the configuration of Avebury. Also stated here, in this paper called The Moon Effect on Lightning, they found an increase in lightning activity in the new phase of the moon, not observed in the thunderstorm data and less pronounced than the decrease in the quarter. The lack of symmetric result with respect to the moon suggests that the effect is probably not due to gravitational tides and may be related to the moon's interaction with the Earth's magnetic field or other unknown effect. With the greatest proof of my hypothesis that stone circles are designed to attract lightning strikes, bringing the fertile energy of the serpent dragging God down from the heavens to the earth, coming from this paper here, A Geophysical Investigation of the Neolithic Calanese Landscape from the University of St. Andrews, discovering the magnetic signature of recurring lightning strikes on the Calanese stone circle. And they state here, lightning thus effectively searches for and locates position of charge buildup for effective discharging or grounding places on a land surface. Persistent features such as trees, stones, or conductive minerals will tend to be struck multiply over time. Furthermore, they say that it is reasonable to assume that the size of a lightning strike recorded in this survey must be associated with either the underlying rock or low saturation boulder clay layer on top of the rock. When lightning hits relatively dry rock surfaces, it also does not penetrate downward. Rather, skin currents extend outward along the free surface to a distance proportionate to the current density. And remember this point at the end, as it will be coming up again later in this series, regarding the percentage of the electric current from the primary lightning strike that is sent into the step-down voltage transformer systems. This paper provides proof of my hypothesis that ancient stone circles were designed to attract lightning strikes by accumulating positive surface charges during thunderstorms, first presented back in episode 116. But now, that's only one function of one component of the Avebury Serpent Temple complex amongst a vast array of other applications for this immense multi-operational landscape technology machine. And damn, I get excited about talking about this thing. So now, let's briefly touch on what happens with the electric current from the primary lightning strike at both ends, the tail end and the head end, of the Serpent Temple complex through each stone avenue.
All right, everyone. I hope you're enjoying the video. And if you want to help support the channel, you can pick up a copy of the book and grab some merch at thelandofchem.com. The second edition Egyptian blue version is now back in stock. Same text as the first edition, just a new color design and a brand new merch drop. Inazuma Kagaku, lightning, chemistry. Absolutely gorgeous kanji calligraphy designed by my Japanese tattoo artist Shin at Funky Guns in Kobe, and all of your favorites, including stickers. Links to everything in the video description below. Thank you all so much for the support. Now, back to the video.
All right, now, the high voltage electric current from the primary lightning strike on the central stone circle of Avebury flows through the Beckhampton step-down voltage transformer system into the tail end of the Serpent at Longstones Cove, featuring the Adam and Eve stones, with exclusive footage from this area of the complex coming up in the specific episode regarding this portion of the complex. Now, this feature is for the distribution of low voltage electric current into the surrounding farmlands for electroculture stimulated agriculture. And on the other side of the snake, through the West Kennet Stone Avenue step-down voltage transformer into the head end of the Serpent Temple here at the sanctuary for the accumulation of electric fields, negative ions, and ozone, all of which are directly connected to lightning and thunderstorms. And I'll be covering each of these features in depth during this series, explaining the function of each component with additional applications for this system that may have included electric field structured water to inhibit freezing, a unique function that would have been specifically useful for ancient agricultural technological applications during or at the end of the last ice age. And I'll be discussing all of this in depth in the next episodes of the series. Now, the function of the stone avenues themselves, as explained in episode 130, regarding the Sphinx step-down voltage transformer systems, is to step down or reduce the immense voltage from the primary lightning strike, transforming it into low voltage current that is distributed into the tail and head ends of the Avebury Serpent Temple complex, exactly like what we have here in Egypt at the Karnak-Luxor Temple complex, which also has its own White Horse cumulonimbus lightning storm generator system right across the river. Check out episode 178. And the stones of the Avebury avenues have all the features of dielectric breakdown from high voltage electric current transmission, such as peeling, vitrified silica glaze, pitting, pinholes, ragged holes, hollows, pellets, and iron stains. And all of these stones have a significant content of iron. More on this coming up soon. And this iron content is directly related to how this system operates via dielectric breakdown of air, via current arcing, and through electromagnetic induction of current. And for any of you that doubt that the electric current can be transferred through spaced stones, check out these clips from the Members Only Alchemist Tier in the Lab Part 3 and Members Only Episode 30. And if you want to help support the channel and get access to this type of exclusive research content, please consider joining the Members Only Tiers, link in the video description below. Now, watch this. I mean, that's a pretty intense discharge between those two. I wasn't considering what we're seeing directly on the electrode, a very small amount of current. All of a sudden, there was a substantial, it looked like a lightning bolt jumping between the two things, where it went from a little trickle to a very big surge of current passing between the two things. Look at that. Oh, fire it back up. Yeah, dude, look at that.
It's alive.
What? Ah!
Oh,
Yes. Yeah.
wow.
All right.
Which is why this is so cool. Okay. All right, this is going to take a little bit to get all these on there.
There's your sphinxes.
Let's see. I might have to change the angle on this a little bit to get more stones on here.
Yeah, and it shouldn't matter if it's, obviously these. So, for example, the Avebury Stone Avenues curves.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So that's totally fine.
Do you know what the angle of that curvature is? Because I'm thinking that might be critical.
So somebody said in the comments that it's something of a staff. Someone's staff in mythology, like the curve of which is, I forget what comment, and somebody had mentioned that in the comment section, that it's a staff or a sword or something like that has that exact same curvature, the shape of the curvature of the stone avenue coming out of Avebury.
Well, that's fun. Still would like to know what the angle is. All right. This is just roughly set up. Let's see what it does. 3, 2, 1. Oh, boy. Oh, that's jumping in all sorts of places. Oh, that's actually jumping toward the stand, Jeff.
All right.
Okay.
So we need to move some of that around.
We got about. Oh, is the camera working?
Yeah, and I can see that so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stones in sequence, and you can see there's electric current jumping off that 6th stone in the sequence. Yeah, so get it a little bit closer, like on the center of that 2nd stone.
There we go.
I can see it right away, even without the lights on or off. There we go.
Okay, now I just did this really, really rough. If I were to be very careful and distance them exactly, let me see what I can do.
So again, just to kind of remind people, this is only 12,000 volts, which in the grand scheme of things, comparing this to atmospheric electrostatic discharge from lightning is like nothing. It's not too.
Insignificant.
Yeah, it's again
Right.
insignificant or trivial compared to the voltage of a lightning strike. And something you also have to remember, this is moving electrical current. Lightning is electrostatic, where it's instantaneous that this happens. So these step-down voltage transformer systems are not conducting it. Well, it is conducting electrical current, but it's not constant flow.
Holy crap! There we go.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Turn the lights off.
All the way on number 1, all the way to number 6.
Yeah. We'll just leave it right there for a sec. See, look at all that electric discharge.
So, Jeff, can I point out one thing that I was thinking about?
Absolutely. So we're gonna dive in deep on a discussion of what's happening here, why this is happening, how different materials could affect this system. Because again, with the Sphinx avenues and the stone avenues of Avebury, there's iron in there, and
oh, wow.
Iron is going to drastically change the. So I've proposed that the reason this step-down voltage transformer system works is due to 2 factors: electromagnetic induction and dielectric breakdown of the air, which is arcing.
There is absolutely dielectric breakdown of the air because of the smell that's coming off this thing right now.
I bet it smells really good. It's ozone.
I'm not getting ozone right now, but I have had ozone almost every other time. I think I'm actually getting the melted plastic.
Well, yeah. So,
but yes, there is ozone. Absolutely, there's ozone. That's absolutely a part of this.
Yeah. All right. Now, to quickly summarize, we have Earth, electrical telluric currents, and subterranean natural resources and bedrock materials that both have a direct impact on lightning strike locations, as presented in this paper: telluric and earth currents, lightning strike locations, and natural resource exploration. Stating here, geophysicists have known for decades that there are electrical currents in the earth, and that these electrical currents are modified by natural resources, which can be resistive, including freshwater aquifers, oil, gas, salt, etc., or conductive, like brines, clays, minerals like copper, iron, lead, zinc, gold, silver, and rare earths, with all of these features being found at ancient sites across the planet. For example, the electrically conductive, mineral-rich spring water below the Hill of Tara in Ireland, and the subterranean aquifers below the Egyptian pyramids, with the Giza Plateau bedrock itself teeming with iron and metal ore mineral deposits, and lightning strikes re-stimulating telluric currents, with all 3 of these elements, telluric currents, bedrock minerals and resources, and lightning, being inseparable parts of Earth's perpetual and reciprocal electrical network, symbolized by the alchemical Ouroboros. Check out episode 179, Pyramids on the Moon and Extraterrestrial Space Acid, for more on that topic. With all of the Earth power resources and subterranean natural resources converging again at the Avebury Serpent Temple complex. So thus far, everything that I have presented are my own original theories about the function of Avebury. Next, we will investigate how these ideas work in conjunction with those of John Burke from his book Seed of Knowledge, Stone of Plenty. But first, I'm going to take you with me to explore this entire site so you can see this massive ancient technology machine for yourself, up close in person, first presented in Sunday Site Visit 35 during our month-long research expedition across England and Ireland in 2023. Let's go.
All right, everyone, welcome back. And we just arrived here at site number 2 on our absolutely massive expedition across the ancient megalithic landscape of England. And site number 2 is called Avebury, a huge ancient stone circle tripling the size of Stonehenge. And I can already tell you, being out in proximity to the stones that you can see here, pretty interesting feeling. And the archaeological excavations show that these sites are connected to massive earthworks. You can see a huge pit and depression here leading along the outside of the site, and they've also discovered massive pits going down into the ground, shafts leading into the earth itself. Any of that sound familiar? It definitely should. So I'm going to take you with me as we explore the site and check out some of these stones. All right, and we were just examining this rock that appears to have been restored and put back together. There's some concrete holding this thing together. You can see here there's some modern concrete restoration holding these pieces together. And look at this here. I don't know if you can see that, but it is a triangular hole. Cored down into the center of the piece of the stone. Very unusual. And I wonder if this may be why the stone was destroyed. They broke this thing open to see where the hole went and to see what it was. As you can see, this is concrete here holding this chunk off that had broken off. So it looks like they destroyed this piece, investigating this triangular hole. And I will say the hole itself is very smooth. There are no tool marks, but that's a very unusual shape. And I would not say that that hole is natural. So what the hell made that hole, and what was originally housed in this piece of stone? So we're going to take a close look at all the rest of them. And you can see this whole piece was broken off here. It's been patched back together with concrete holding this thing together. So they definitely destroyed this piece of stone to investigate something, or perhaps to remove something out of this hole. Good start so far. All right, and we've just started here near the opening and entrance to the site. This was the first stone that we examined, and these are modern markers where stones would have existed if they were still in their original place. and we're just gonna follow the stones and see where the site takes us. And there are sheep turds all over this field. It's like landmines. All right, so shout out to Ancient Odysseys for pointing out that triangular hole. She's the one who spotted it, so that's a genuine discovery on her part. And now that really has my attention, as we'll be looking for similar anomalous holes in these stones. And I will say, it's really freaking cool to be able to get close to these stones, because at Stonehenge, as you saw in the video, you can't get close to it. You can't go on the inner part of the circle. But here, I mean, you're right up close to these things. And I can definitely say that this is a very powerful site, man. It feels pretty wild being out in this field. Look at that. So this piece has to be probably at least, I don't know, 13 feet tall. Man, that is impressive. Stand next to it so they can see a size comparison. Very interesting shape. And this is just the first part of this little enclosure. It continues around through several fields. And we'll walk through all of these. Yeah, there's all sorts of interesting holes and erosion in this one. Look at this piece of erosion here. So this is part one of the enclosure. And we're gonna cross across the road, and man, these pieces are absolutely massive across the street. Let's go. All right, we just crossed the road, and I'm now standing in the inner circle of smaller stones. And again, these are small markers where stones would have been originally. And you can see here around the outside, man, these pieces of stone are absolutely massive. Just, I mean, immense. As big as anything that you would see in Egypt. And there's no telling how deep these things go into the ground, because they're probably halfway buried. for them to be able to stand upright like this. I mean, these two pieces here, these things are huge. Perspective. I mean, here's one side. This is the other side. So this thing is probably, I don't know, 15 feet across, 15 feet high. Huge. And so here I'm at eye level. So this here is about 6 feet. And these stones are sarsen stones. Same type of siliceous sandstone that's found at Stonehenge. So sandstone with very high silica content. And it's starting to rain pretty hard down here, but we're gonna keep on rolling. All right, so we just came from this area here, and you can see this huge depression. And the path takes us up here along the outer bank. This was the first area that we came from, into this area here. And I'll put in a picture of me sitting inside of this stone so you can get a sense of the size of these pieces of sandstone. It is absolutely wild out here. All right, so we just walked the length of the perimeter here, and these two dots, again, that's another couple walking toward us here, those two little dots, to give you some sense of scale of the monument. And the enclosure, the outer perimeter of the enclosure continues around. You can see the hill here, and there's basically a small city in the center of this massive ancient structure. And this continues, and there's more stones out in this field.
The site is crazy.
Yeah, I would say at this point, you know, we've seen a lot of ancient sites in our time. Special permission access into some of the most amazing places on the planet in Egypt. And we are both pretty blown away by this site. Way beyond what I had anticipated. And we're crossing through into another area with these massive, just colossal pieces of stone. And you can see here again the outer perimeter that we've been walking on is here, still in a huge circle around the town in the center. So they literally built this little town in the center of this whole thing. Here's the ditch. And there's just keeps going. More and more of these huge stones out here. Crazy, holy crap. So before my battery dies, I'm gonna walk straight across the field to investigate this stone here. And then I think we're gonna take 5 to go switch some batteries and get some food. This was an expedition that has surpassed all expectations, to say the least. This is crazy. And I'm doing my best to avoid all of the sheep droppings in this field as we traverse it. To take a look at this behemoth piece of stone. Look at this. And we're going to be eating at the little pub back here, quite appropriately called the Red Lion. Alchemical symbols and connections, anyone? Hey, go walk over there so they can get a sense of perspective and scale. That is a massive slab of stone. And look at this one. I believe it said they think that there were originally 98 pieces of stone. All right, the rain is really coming down now, but stay tuned for more as we continue our expedition across the ancient megalithic landscape of England and Ireland. All right, everyone, I hope you're enjoying the video, and please remember to subscribe to our 3 other channels. My wife Alexa's channel, Archaeoalchemy, our mutual international travel and culinary adventure channel, Let's Go with Lex and G, and the best channel on YouTube, Egyptian Trash Cats. For all you cat lovers out there, ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you all so much for the support. Now, back to the video.
Hell yeah. All right, now, let's discuss the work of John Burke that, as stated in the beginning of the video, was first brought to my attention by our good friend Hugh Newman from Megalithomania, and I'll put a link to our interview in the video description below. And as I began to explain my theory on stone circles and the function of Avebury, Hugh suggested that I read the research of John Burke, which features some fantastic similarities regarding the physics and geology-based mechanisms of operation, but also some substantial differences regarding the final output, which for Burke was seed enhancement, hence the name of his book, Seed of Knowledge, Stone of Plenty. And we are going to dive deep into this exceptional concept, and there's no good way for me to do it other than to quote directly from his book, because there is some absolutely fascinating and critical details that I need to present first before we begin the next episodes in the series. So let's start here with this image, a geological map showing how the structures at Windmill Hill, Avebury, Silbury Hill were all erected on knobs of middle chalk, protruding into the lower chalk layer. Here, the ditches of these structures are best able to cut the electrically conductive clay at the bottom of the middle chalk, thus concentrating telluric currents in the gaps or causeways. The peninsula or island effect of these electrical discontinuities may help explain the unusually large magnetic fluctuations measured. And a picture from his book here showing Avebury. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is, in my opinion, the greatest archaeological travesty of all time. The construction of these modern roads and the town that now sits right in the center of this majestic ancient structure. People say all the time how the Egyptians badly treat their ancient monuments, but there is absolutely nothing like this in Egypt. You Brits should be ashamed of yourselves that this town is still standing and defacing this masterpiece of ancient technology. Okay, rant over, moving on. And I'll resume quoting here. And as I work my way through these passages, all of this should be sounding very familiar. Starting here, interfluves and glowing balls. One factor that links all of the above into a coherent scheme is earth energy. The geology of the chalk downs is perfect for generating natural electrical current. It is all a matter of water moving through the chalk. First, electrons are stripped off, raindrops, as they squeeze through the rock pores, in a physical process known as adsorption. This means that the water molecules now have a net positive charge and have left a negative charge behind in the chalk. This effect is doubly reinforced when the water actually dissolves the chalk. A calcium carbonate molecule will split, causing a calcium atom with a double positive charge to be washed away in the water, leaving behind a double negative charge in the rock. The total effect in the chalk was substantial negative charge, and water draining through it with a substantial positive charge. As we know, opposites are attracted, so this causes an electrical current in the ground. Just as the movement of electrically charged water will alone generate a magnetic field, and we have measured both together at Silbury Hill after a night of heavy rain. Combine all of the above with the fact that seasonal, vertical fluctuations of the water table in this chalk are some of the largest of any major aquifers in the world, up to 100 feet. Furthermore, the magnitude of a magnetic field charge is proportional to the porosity of the rock, and chalk is extremely porous. Because of all of these factors, The southern England chalk lands are some of the best terrain in the world for geologically induced electromagnetic fluctuations. Not surprisingly, henges were overwhelmingly built on chalk just above a waterway. Again, this should all be sounding very familiar. Next, an interesting story here. On this ridge, we first experienced one electromagnetic phenomenon for which we have no explanation. Occasionally, mid to late afternoon will show an enormous jump in airborne electrical charge. We still do not understand the physical process behind this, and to our knowledge, no one does. But consider the following. One June afternoon atop the ridge that includes Milk Hill and rises right beside the oldest burial mounds in the area, Adam's Grave, our assistant was learning how to use the electrostatic voltmeter. Suddenly, she cried out with some alarm, thinking that she had done something wrong. She hadn't. As we all watched, some invisible power circled us and sent the needle of the meter climbing. We switched the meter to the high setting, staring open-mouthed as it went right off the scale at 10 kilovolts per inch and stayed there. It never came down again. Back in the US, the manufacturer informed us that the unit was beyond repair and would need to be replaced. Experts in ball lightning have estimated that DC electric fields of only 5 kilovolts per inch, half of what we measured, can be enough to produce a glowing ball of ionized air. Ball lightning. We saw no lights during the afternoon hours when our meter fried. However, Milk Hill and another structure called Golden Ball Hill, parts of the same ridge, numerous observations of glowing balls of light have been observed, many of which were videotaped. One shows the entire top of Milk Hill seeming to glow with a giant orange hemisphere. At the foot of the hill, tiny balls of white light have been taped, moving during the daytime. Another video shows a glowing orb at an altitude of several hundred feet, seemingly changing shape like a loose water balloon. Might similar lights have first drawn the early builders to these sites? Other magnetometer surveys taken on different occasions on this hill strongly suggest the presence of dynamic electromagnetic fields inside the ridge. Now, here's an image from their book capturing one of these quote-unquote glowing orbs. Now, take this for what it's worth and probably with a grain of salt. I don't think this is anything, just a figment of the photography and most likely a lens flare. But it is interesting the mention of ball lightning, which, as in episode 180, is a phenomenon closely associated with these ancient electromagnetic energy and lightning-powered systems, just like the glowing UFO orbs often sighted at Pyramid Coromanta in Japan. Next, Avebury sits between Windmill Hill and Silbury Hill, perhaps a half mile from either. The design, as well as its execution, will awe any visitor. Inside the edges of a ditch, 1,000 feet across and circular to within a few inches, stands a ring of rough, unfinished stones. Originally, 200 large stones were used for the circle, but unfortunately, most were destroyed in the 18th century. Only smaller ones remain, weighing 7 to 8 tons apiece. Some of the original stones weighed 40 tons. Today, a small village sits inside the stone ring. In the ditch were 4 gaps or causeways, where the original bedrock was left intact. And here is an image showing these bizarre-looking stones that you just saw up close in our expedition footage. Now, here's where things really start to get interesting. From the central complex, 2 double rows of huge stones, today called avenues, were erected over the next 2 centuries, running out about a mile or so. Again, as we measured, 2.3 kilometers. The West Kennet Avenue, still fairly intact, connects with Overton Hill, the site of a causewayed enclosure, stone circles, and a 150 gamma magnetic anomaly to the southeast. The other avenue heads southwest to a spot near 2 huge upright stones called Adam and Eve. These stones are believed to be the only remaining ones from this avenue. The others were taken as building material over the centuries and can be spotted here and there in the walls of houses inside the stone circle. Now here, getting into electromagnetic energies. Over several weeks, we conducted a massive magnetometer survey at Avebury, taking over 1,000 readings. During daylight hours in August, near the stones of Adam and Eve, we measured a mysterious surge in geomagnetic readings. Instead of the usual surge of about 20 to 40 gammas during 1 hour at noon, we found a 250 gamma surge, 150 gammas of which lasted several hours. We have never encountered a similar midday surge anywhere else, nor can we find mention of it in any scientific literature. But it makes us wonder if this was a spot known to the builders as rich in electromagnetic energy that they wanted to connect to the circle. The daily magnetic readings all over Avebury die away overnight to a degree far greater than normal. Then, at sunrise, they come roaring back. As I mentioned previously, telluric currents have diurnal fluctuations, flowing east to west following the sun during the day, and north to south following the geomagnetic poles at night. Like Silbury Hill and Windmill Hill, Avebury was placed so as to fill a knob of middle chalk that extended into the lower chalk formation. This placement will create the peninsula effect, which heightens the fluctuations at this conductivity discontinuity. At dawn, the ground current from the surrounding countrysides is attracted by the henge, where the magnetic fluctuations are at maximum. It is well known that most of this current is transmitted near the ground surface. Digging even a shallow trench around the zone of magnetic charges creates an obstacle to the ground current. When electric ground current encounters the ditch, it follows the path of least resistance through the small opening in the causeway into the stone ring, now in concentrated form. So why did the builders of Avebury go to such trouble digging the henge up to 30 feet deep? Probably because underground electrical current travels best in wet layers of ground where the water in the aquifers of the chalk is stopped by a layer of clay. Throughout the 0.6 mile long henge ring, the workers everywhere dug just deep enough to sever this electrically conductive layer and no deeper. This would force all the ground current to concentrate at the causeways where the stone avenues enter the circle. Here is one point where I disagree with Burke, where I don't think that this is just a simple ditch. It is a reservoir to enhance electrical conductivity. Moving on here to stone magnets. As mentioned, a double row of huge stones called West Kennet Avenue leads out of the great circle of Avebury. These big slabs of sandstone, dragged from the nearby Marlborough Downs, contain black magnetite, which makes the stones magnetic. Retaining their original polarity from the formation deep underground, each stone acts like a weak but very large magnet. And here's an image showing the stones of the West Kennet Avenue, which connect Avebury Henge with Overton Hill. The stones act like a bar magnet, with all of their north poles lined up in the same direction. This was probably done to direct ions into Avebury. Furthermore here, while the magnetism of the standing stones is not strong enough to noticeably defect a compass needle, the more sensitive magnetometers can show that the stones are indeed magnetic, as geological studies have confirmed. We recorded a particularly powerful jump in our magnetometer readings by holding the probe up to a fist-sized cluster of magnetite crystals visible in one of the Avenue sarsens. If these stones were strictly for ceremonial purposes, the magnetic orientation of the stones would not be of consequence. However, the south pole of each stone faces the next stone in the line as you move toward the circle. This arrangement means the north poles of the stones generally point south, which are opposing the geomagnetic field. Inside the main and the minor stone circles, the south poles of all the stones point at the next stone in the circle in a clockwise direction with two exceptions. The stones at the two intact causeway entrances have their magnetic poles aligned with those of the avenue, rather than with the clockwise pattern of the circle, up to a 90-degree difference from their companions in the ring. We measured all 67 remaining stones with an average of 16 readings per stone. None had a detectable magnetic pole pointing in a direction that would contradict this pattern. Here, super important, duplicating this arrangement in the lab, we obtained a result fully consistent with the laws of electromagnetism, but utterly shocking. The aligned magnets channeled airborne ions in one direction. This is the same principle used at Chicago's Fermi Laboratory, America's greatest circular atomic accelerator. Today, physicists spend billions of dollars building circular tunnels with magnets, with their poles aligned. We call them cyclotrons or colliders. They are built to move ions in one direction by making the magnets stronger and stronger as the ions move around the ring. Physicists use colliders to smash ions into targets so that they can study the debris of the collision and find the pieces that make up the atoms. At Avebury, circa 2500 BC, and I highly disagree with this dating, the prehistoric engineers also seem to know how to do the direction of ions, but doubtless in search of a different end result. So our tests show that the avenue of sarsen stones seem to be designed to channel airborne ions between them into the central circle. The orientation of magnetic poles of the stones in the ring would then contain the ions by circling them around and around within the ring, just like in modern supercolliders, but at a lower speed. Elsewhere in England and Scotland and at Carnac, massive stone rows also end in stone circles. The rows usually connect the circles to water where air is easily ionized. Just inside one of Avebury's major causeways was a small stone circle, surrounding a rectangle of standing stones, distinctive in the otherwise circular structures. Similar to what we saw at Windmill Hill and later at Stonehenge, inside the rectangle were shallow clay-lined pits. Neolithic farmers, we assume, would put their seeds into the pits where airborne ions would enhance them. A potential problem would have been how to keep the ions from being stalled at some point in the avenue by the opposite attracting poles of the magnetic stones. One way around this problem is to have the magnets become stronger and stronger. This solution may explain why the stones of the avenue grow in size as you approach the circle. This same size patterning is also found at Carnac, Dorset, and other stone rows. So in conclusion, is the collider still at work today? Most of the stones are now missing, but considering the following and decide for yourself. One day in 1993, at the southern end of the Kennett Avenue, Nancy Talbot of Massachusetts felt compelled to stop her car on a dangerous blind curve and shoot a photo of something she didn't consciously see at the time, the photo of the quote-unquote glowing orb that I just showed earlier. When the film was developed, an anomalous ball appeared as a 12-foot wide glowing sphere of white, situated in the middle of the avenue. Analysis by photographic experts using state-of-the-art computer enhancement equipment concluded that it was not a photographic artifact, but a real three-dimensional object, uniformly illuminated from within, probably an aerosol. In other words, it was like a big ball of plasma, ball lightning, or electrically charged air. Standing near the enclosure of Windmill Hill on another occasion, Talbot took 2 photographs on the opposite side of Avebury, revealing similar, if larger, glowing white spheres. None of her photos involved a flash. Glowing balls of light entering the ground or emerging from it have also been seen several times at Avebury. In 1823, 3 stones were removed from Avebury's ring because horses used to shy at them in the dusk of evening and bolt down the bank. Horses are not the only creatures that have been frightened by the stones. There are numerous cases of present-day visitors who get electric shocks from touching the standing stones. And I can corroborate that there is a physiological sensation that you can absolutely feel standing next to these stones. We also know of similar cases of shocks from New England rock chambers. It is not hard to see why the people who built this henge would select this particular spot. Now let's take a look at what they got for all their effort. So, Burke's theory is that Avebury is a massive, ancient, magnetic field-driven ion cyclotron, drawing charged ions into the circle for the enhancement of seeds. And I'll be breaking this whole thing down in the next video with a detailed explanation of how each feature, including how and why it works. It is a fascinating idea that works directly in conjunction with all of my theories described earlier in the video, with one important difference. His is how the system works during fair weather, and mine is how the Avebury Serpent Temple complex operates during a lightning storm, when the polarity switches and the whole thing works in the opposite direction. As you can see here, during a thunderstorm, the Earth's surface directly beneath the storm shifts from its normal slight negative charge to a strong positive charge. This occurs because the massive concentration of negative charge in the lower part of the thunderstorm cloud repels negative charges into the ground and attracts positive charges to the surface. And as presented in episode 146 regarding the function of standing stones, menhir, and obelisks, the positive charges accumulate on the surface of tall objects, which then attract lightning. In this case, the obelisks, or standing stones at the center of the Avebury primary circle, a feature that Burke doesn't address in his book, with a cascade of electrical phenomenon to follow, including induced polarity. The large negative charge in the lower part of the thunderstorm induces strong positive charge on the ground directly underneath. Upward streamers, as negatively charged lightning leaders, known as step leaders, descend from the cloud. The concentrated positive charge on the ground sends up streamers or step leaders to meet them, completing the circuit. The effect of an anvil cloud. If a positively charged anvil cloud is overhead, the ground underneath can actually become negatively charged. And the role of the global circuit. This is also important. Thunderstorms act as batteries that recharge the Earth, which generally carries a net negative charge with positive charge from the atmosphere And another interesting one here regarding St. Elmo's fire, the high electrical potential difference can cause a luminous discharge known as St. Elmo's fire, typically appearing on sharp, elevated objects. Again, standing stone, obelisks, and menhir. And in the next episode of this series, I will explain how all of this is applicable to the function of the Avebury step-down voltage transformer stone avenues leading into the head end of the Avebury Serpent Temple complex known as the Sanctuary, another critical piece of the puzzle that goes unmentioned in Burke's book. And in this month's members-only episode, I'll be introducing a new concept into the mix, Schumann resonance, and explaining how this ancient lightning technology is intimately connected to human consciousness via Schumann resonance. So if you like the video, please subscribe, click the notification bell, and stay tuned. Check out the new Avebury playlist for all of the videos mentioned in today's episode. Consider a membership to the Members Only channel if you want to help support the channel and get access to exclusive research content and the full In the Lab experiment series. And I'll see you next time. All right, everyone, that is it for today's video. This was episode 182, The Function of Avebury, Part 1. I really hope you enjoyed today's video, and in the next episode in the series, a spectacular presentation revealing the true meaning of the Sphinx. This is an episode you do not want to miss, so if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Land of Chem here on YouTube if you're interested in the technology of a lost civilization utilizing physics and chemistry and the function of the Egyptian pyramids and other ancient structures from around the world. Remember to click that little notification bell so you don't miss out on new episodes. Like, comment, hype, share, and stay tuned if you want to help support the channel and get access to some of the exclusive research content mentioned in today's video. Check out the members only channel and thelandofchem.com if you want to pick up a copy of the book or grab some merch. Links in the video description below. If you want to follow me on Instagram or on X, my handle is @thelandofchem. Also, don't forget, after you finish watching this video, please go subscribe to our 3 other channels, my beautiful wife Alexa's channel, Archeo Alchemy, our mutual travel, adventure, and culinary experience channel. Let's go with Lex and G. And the best channel on YouTube, Egyptian Trash Cats. For all you cat lovers out there, ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you all so much for the support. I think that's it for today's episode, so I will see you next time.
Yo, are you still watching this? Please subscribe to the Land of Chem here on YouTube and click that little notification button. New videos coming out every single week. And check out this other episode. Come on, do it. Do it now.